Haywire is a fast-paced, class-based tactical skirmish scale game for both solo and co-op play set in the modern days, and it's completely free. It is an asymmetric game in which players control an assaulting team which is aware of the enemy presence. It is generally a well-trained force, but comes in low numbers. On the opposing side, the defending team is unaware of the enemy presence. They are controlled by some basic movement until the alert is raised. After that, a set of rules written on each enemy class card will dictate their behavior. In most cases, the enemy faction are way less trained than the assaulting team, but they are way more present on the board. Haywire comes with 30 playable classes, divided in 3 tiers. Tier 1 represents your typical special forces, Tier 2 represents regular armies, and Tier 3 will be your local guerrilla force. You will find classes like the team leader, the breacher, the marksman, or the undercover operator. Those classes are all divided in one of the 16 default units. A unit is a group of 6 classes. Each unit has a special role, like recon or hostage rescue, and each unit has its own call sign. This way, those units are not tied to a specific country. Finally, each unit comes also with 2 unique support actions that the team leader can deploy at any moment. Anything from a recon drone to a medevac or even a missile strike. Choosing the good unit to send in a specific mission will only be one of the tactical choices players will need to make. On the opposite side, there are 3 main factions to play against: the Insurgent, the Cartel, and the Russian Armed Forces. Each of those factions comes with a unique set of enemy classes, vehicles, and support actions. For example, the Insurgent could spawn a VBEID, which will need some heavy weapons to deal with, while the Cartel has bribed a police unit which have a better training to help protect their interests. Haywire comes with more than 200 print-and-play cards. Some are present to add more randomness to a game, like the Fog of War Events deck. The infield deck gives the assaulting team its starting position on the board. They could be deployed using pickup trucks trying to blend in a civilian populated area, or maybe their helo went down touched by an RPG and crash landed in the middle of the board, changing completely the way the mission could be played. Talking about mission, the operation deck will help players in getting started with the game by giving them a series of random missions to tackle, but players are of course free to create their own scenarios. Haywire is a turn-based game, and there are 3 phases per turn: the player phase, the hope for phase, and the spawn phase. During the player phase, the player activates all his models one after the other using their 2 action points to do action on the board. There are 10 base actions each model can do, but each class has also at least one skill they can use. Once all model has been activated, the hope for phase starts. An alert hope for model and threat token move randomly on the board, while alerted model move following their own behavior dictated on their class card. Finally, if the alert has been raised, additional enemy will spawn in the spawn phase, and the enemy leader might call in some extra support during that same phase. After the spawn phase, the turns end and a new one begins. So now that we covered what is Haywire, let's have a look at a quick example of play. So this is going to be the table I'm going to do that quick demo on. It's on my favela table. It's the turn 1 and I've deployed my team on the Corona infield point. That defines that the assaulting team is deployed using 2 civilian vehicles placed with a minimum of 18 inches between each other. So I have a first vehicle over here with 4 models inside, and I have a second vehicle over here with also 4 models inside. So now, let's get started with the turn 1. During the player turn, I can activate any of my model and do up to 2 actions with each of them. So for example, here I can activate that guy over here, and I can use 1 action point to do a move action. doing a move action, you can move up to 6 inches. So here I'm using that basing template here instead of a retractable ruler, just so it's easier for me to handle with one hand. So I'm going to move this guy up to 6 inch over here, and I can use his second action point to do some other action. But for now, I'm going to simply, actually do another move and just move him out of the way in case that threat token arrive here and spot the rest of my team. The next thing I'm going to activate is my team leader, which is over here and is checking his tablet kind of thing. So here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to activate him and move him 6 inches behind my first model here. For his second action point, I'm going to actually use my team leader Empower ability. He can give one of his action points to another friendly model on the board. So he's going to give his second action point to this model over here in civilian clothing with no weapons visible. This is my undercover agent, which have a pretty cool skill, the undercover skill, which makes him undetectable by the enemy, unless he moves within 6 inches or if he starts to fire his weapon. So that's it for my team leader. Now let's activate actually this model. I'm going to use his first action point to move up to 6 inches, so roughly up to here behind that building. From there, you have line of sight on this threat token over here. When a model controlled by the player has line of sight on a threat token, you need to roll one dice on the current threat level card. We are at the threat level 1, we are on the turn 1, so I'm going to use the threat level 1. So let's pick one dice and roll it. So here I rolled a 5. Let's pick the card. The 5 defines that there is actually nothing on that current threat token, so I can simply take it and remove it from play. So this model has still 2 action points to use, one from his and one that has been given by the team leader. So I'm going to move him 6 inches up to here, and I'm going to move him another time just to be on the corner of that building so you have line of sight on that second threat token. From there, same idea. He has line of sight, so I'm going to roll one die. Here I roll a 14. A 14 defines there is one Soldado and one Sicario that spawn on that threat token. So I'm going to take one Soldado, which is the basic soldier, the basic fighter, and I'm going to take one Sicario. The Sicario have different behavior, he also have a body armor, and is a bit tougher and have some better shooting stats. So I can take that threat token and place instead those 2 models. For the example, let's say that I've ended up the movement for all my models, and now we jump onto the Op 4 phase, the opponent phase. You always start by activating the revealed Op 4 model first, and then you will activate the threat token. So right now I only have those models that has been revealed, so I'm going to activate those. As long as the alert is not raised, those models will move randomly with a d6 that will define the length of their movement and a scatter dice that define the direction they will be moving. If you fall on the aim icon, they are not moving, they are just looking in that direction. You simply take those 2 dice and you move them in that direction. So here, for example, they just move 1 inch on here, so basically they are just looking in that building. Maybe they heard something here, they just would like to check. I'm actually pretty lucky because they didn't move and enter line of sight of my soldier, so that's it for those guys. Next is to do the same kind of movement for all the threat tokens, and you always activate the closest threat token from your force to the farthest. For example, here, the closest threat token from my force is probably that one. So same idea here, I'm going to pick those 2 dice and move that threat token 4 inches on the left. When you encounter something that is blocking the movement, you will just go around. So for example, here, that threat token was here, is just moving 2 inches and is just going around that object here. Once all the threat token has been activated, it's the end of the hope for phase, we jump to the spawn phase. As long as the alert is not raised, nothing will happen in this spawn phase. So right now the alert has not been raised, that's the end of the turn, and we can jump on to the next turn. So here I'm jumping a couple of turns later to show you some more action. At the start of each turn after the first one, there is a chance to encounter some Fog of War event. That's some of those examples here. The Fog of War deck can spawn additional reinforcement on a roof or some places. Here, for example, you have the cramp. One of your model can't move this turn. You can get some intel on some of the threat token around the board, or you can even have some additional objective that could be added to your mission. So this deck is, there is a lot of different kind of events that are there to spice a bit your games and add more randomness and events. So here we start the turn 4, and it's the player phase. So I'm going to activate some of my models. But first there are some visible cartel member here, there, and there is also a sniper up here. So first thing I'm going to take care of is those guys here. I will activate my first model. Right now, this model is not in cover from that guy. For example, he have a clear line of sight on that model. So the first thing I'm going to do is activate this model. I'm going to move 6 inches behind that pallet here. I'm going to use the second action point to do a combat action at that enemy cartel member. To do a combat action is pretty simple. You take the shooting stat of the attacking model. Here, all the tier 1 models have the exact same shooting stat, 5, 9, 13. The 3 stats are used when doing a combat action, and it's defined, it's based on if the target is in the open, is in cover, or if he has body armor. So for example, here, that cartel member is in the middle of the open, and we know that the soldado, the basic soldier, doesn't have any body armor. So we'll use the easy shooting stat because that's an easy target. If the model is behind cover or if it wears the body armor, you use the medium combat stat, the 9+. And if the target is behind cover and he also is equipped with the body armor, you will use the hard combat stat, which will be 13. But for this example here, my enemy model, the target here is in the open. Let me grab my dices. Is in the open with no cover, with no body armor. Next thing is to check the weapon. So here I'm using a basic assaulter. He's equipped with an HK416, a basic assault rifle. So here is the table for all the different kind of weapon. Some weapon can fire more dices. It also depends on the range. So here, for example, the rifle, between 0 to 6 inches, you roll 2 dice. Here I'm just outside of that, I'm between 7 and 8 inches, so I'm going to roll only one single dice, one d20. And with that d20, again, I need to score more than 5 to be able to hit that cartel soldier. So let's roll it. And I score a 13, which is perfect. I actually hit that cartel soldado. In Haywire, when an enemy model is hit, is automatically killed and removed from play. It's a bit different for the player model. They have 2 health points, and their total health is basically the number of action points they can use. So if one of your model is hit, he will lose 1 health point, and he will have access to only 1 action point in the following turn, at least until a medic heals him. So that's it for this model. Now I'm going to activate this second model over here. This second model, same thing here. Right now he's in the open, so the same thing here, I'm going to move him behind. Right now there is actually not a perfect cover, so I'm just going to move him up to here. He's not really in cover with those pallets, but he's getting closer to this model. He's within 6 inches. This model here is my point man, and he's equipped with an MP7. So let's have a look at the table. The MP7 is an SMG. It can fire up to 18 inches. And between 0 to 6 inches, you can actually roll 2 dice, which is great. The problem here is that this model here is in cover behind those barrels, And also this model is a Sicario, and the Sicario is equipped with body armor. And you can see that by taking the Sicario. Let me find it. Of course, it will be the last one. Yes, it's the last one. The Sicario here, that's his table. On every enemy table, on every enemy card, the left side is exactly the same as the player card. You have the name, the tier or the faction for the enemy, you have the combat stat, the skills and the equipment. What is different for the enemy is their behavior that is listed over here, and we are going to see that in a moment. But for the Sicario, he has the armored skill, which grants him a body armor. So in this case, I'm firing at an enemy that is behind cover and has a body armor, so I will need to use the hard combat stat. The hard combat stat for my tier 1 operator is 13. And since I have an SMG, I'm going to roll 2 dice. And I need at least one of them to be above 13. So here I scored a 12 plus a 6, that means I missed all my shots. That's really a shame actually. I use my 2 action points for this model, there is nothing else I can do to target that model. In Haywire there is a suppression system. Here I fire 2 dice, meaning 2 shots went towards that model. That model received 2 suppression points, so I'm going to mark that with that yellow dice here. Haywire comes also with some token. I'm actually still working on them, but they will basically look like that. And it's, again, same as the card, it's a print and play, just a print and play paper. I can actually use them directly on the board, but just if he gets more shot and the suppression point increase in the future, the dice is a bit more handy. When a model gets 3 suppression points, he will lose 1 action point for his next activation. And if a model gets 6 suppression points, he will lose both of his action points for the next turn and he won't be able to be activated. So that's it for my 2 models. Next thing I want to activate is here. At the front of my column here, I have my support guy who is equipped with that light machine gun. So I'm going to use his first action point to move up to here, right at the door. Now with his second action point, let's actually take the card from the support class. The support class has a pretty useful skill, which is a suppressive fire. Target a point on the board in line of sight of this model. Model located within 1.5 inch of this point can't be activated this turn. So here, I can basically create a suppression area and all the model within that area won't be able to activate. So that's typically what I'm going to do on those 3 models. But again, I'm doing that because I move with that model, you only have 1 action point left to do an action. If I fire, I'm going to be able only to kill one of those, and the 2 others will be able to get activated. So here I will use the suppressing fire to pin down those 3 models and they won't be able to be activated. So now for this example I'm going to skip some of my model and jump to the up 4 phase. Obviously I wouldn't have left alive that Sicario because it's very dangerous and the sniper is also very dangerous, but I wanted to show you how they activate and how they do stuff on the board. So here we jump onto the op 4 phase and we start by activating always the model that is the closest to a player model, and in that case it's that Sicario here. So I'm taking the Sicario card and on the right you have the Sicario behavior. So the first thing it's basically a series of questions, and depending on the answer there is different action you need to do. So first thing, is there an enemy in line of sight? Yes, proceed to step 2. Is the enemy within 12 inch? So here those 2 guys are definitely within 12 inch. So yes, and the Sicario has 2 action points. No, since actually yeah, he only got 2 suppression points, so he's not affected by suppression, so he doesn't lose any action points. So yes, and the Sicario has 2 action points left. Use action point to move to the closest cover that keep line of sight and range to the target, and use 1 action point to throw a fragmentation grenade at that target. In the rules where it's labeled, well, it's written all the type of action, it said that when the enemy is throwing a grenade, they are basically trying to take down as much enemy as possible. So in that case, he's already in cover, so he won't move. He will throw the grenade toward that group, and he will actually aim exactly in between those 2 models to try to do as much damage as possible. In the cheat sheet section of the rules, there is a condensed version of the action, and here you have a bit information on throwing a grenade. Between 0 and 3 inch it's automatic, between 3 to 6 you use the easy combat stat, and here we are roughly between 7 and 8, so we use the medium combat stat. And here for the Cartel Sicario, his medium combat stat is 13, so we'll take 1 dice, and he needs to score a 13 to be able to land that grenade exactly where he wants. So let's roll a die, and he rolled a 6, which is great for me because that means that the grenade doesn't land exactly where he wanted. So I'm going to place the original point he was aiming there, and now from this point you need to roll 1 scatter dice and 1 d6 to define exactly where the grenade lands. The grenade lands 3 inch in that direction. So I'm going to take that arrow, going to take the 3 inch mark, and the grenade will actually land 3 inch here on the rear. And the grenade have a range of 1.5 inch, which is actually great because that's just outside of the range of this model. You know what? No, it's yeah. I'm going. No, it actually touched the base, and it's not. As soon as it touched the base, it's assumed that it touched the model. So actually, here the grenade still touch this model here. So for frag grenade, model within the blast radius are hit on a 7+. So let's roll a die. And here it's a 10, so this model is hit, he is now injured. I'm going to mark his injury with a red dice. I'm currently also working on token for that. But yeah, he's basically now injured, and he is losing 1 action point for his next activation. For all remaining activation, he's injured until a medic heals him. So that's why, in reality, I would have targeted definitely the Sicario first, because he was way more dangerous than the Cartel Soldado here. The frag grenade is really dangerous, and he also have the body armor. So that's it for the Cartel Sicario. We jump onto the Sniper, because again, there are some other threat tokens that could be closer to our force, but you first always activate the Reveal up for, and then the threat token. So I'm going to grab the card from the Sniper, where it is. Halcon. The Sniper is the Halcon. So here, same thing here, you read the behavior. Is there an enemy in line of sight? Yes. And the Halcon has 2 action points. Use 2 action points to do 2 combat action at the closest target. So the Sniper is right there, and you have line of sight on those 2 models, and the closest one is this one with the SMG. So he's going to do 2 combat action at that target. So the target, my guy, is actually behind cover because he's behind that crate compared to where the Sniper is, and my guy is also equipped with a body armor. So here he will do 2 combat action, and he will need a 16+ to be able to hit my guy. Having a quick look at the weapon rule, the sniper rifle between 0 to 6 inches you roll 1 dice, and between 6 to the max range, we don't have, so there is no max range, you roll 2 dices. So here basically for every combat action, that sniper is going to roll 2 dices. So first combat action, 2 dice, he hit on a 16+. So 3 and 2, nothing hits my model, that's fine. Second combat action, A 1 and a 17. Okay, that's bad because the 17 actually hits me. It hits me, same thing here, I receive an injury. That means I'm losing 1 action point for my next activation. In addition to that, I had basically 4 shots that was targeting that model. So for the next turn, this model receives 4 suppression points, meaning he will lose his second action point. He has been injured, and in addition to that, he is suppressed. So this model won't be able to be activated next turn because it just doesn't have any action point. The next step in the Op4 phase, once all Op4 model has been activated, is to activate the threat token. Every threat token will move 6 inches, and if during or at the end of that moment they still don't have line of sight on a player model, they will use their second action point to enter Overwatch. Overwatch will allow them to fire in my phase when I move my model in their line of sight. Once all the Op4 model and threat token has been activated, we jump onto the spawn phase. The spawn phase represents the fact that nearby Op4 model heard the gunshot, the gunfight, and they arrive on the board. So the first step is always to take the current threat level card. Right now we are at the threat level 4, and at each turn there will be, at the end of each turn in the spawn phase, there will be always one new group of enemy that enter the board. So you simply roll 1 dice and you look at that table. So a 9 plus is 1 soldado plus 1 sniper. And where they arrive on one of the 6 spawn points that are placed on the board. That's part of the setup. When setting up your table, you need to place 6 dice marked from 1 to 6, 3 of them on the board edge. So there is 1 here, 1 there, and 1 here, and 3 of them on a building. So there is 1 here, 4, 6, and the 5 is on this building here. So now that we know what actually spawn, you simply need to roll another dice, and basically here, from the spawn point number 1, it will be an Halcon and a Soldado that will arrive just there. So that's a bit to push the player to not simply sit around and wait to kill all the enemy, because there will always be new enemy that enter the board. And that's just the first step in the spawn phase. The second step is that the enemy leader, if he's not killed, and let's assume that right now he's still somewhere on the board on one of the threat tokens, as long as he's not killed, at every turn he will call some reinforcement. So you need to do a simple roll again on that table, and that will define what he will call. There is a chance he calls nothing. There is some chances he calls some more enemy groups that spawn on a spawn point. And every enemy faction also has 3 unique support. So let's have a look. And here it's a 14. That's actually, no, that's 2 more enemy group. 11 to 14, 2 enemy group. So again, here what I need to do is again roll the 2 dice. So here a 19 and a 2, it will be 3 soldado plus the leader that spawn on point number 2. And here we have a 12 and a 4, that will be again 1 soldado, 1 sanguinario, that's point on the point number 4. So just many more enemies that enter the area that we need to deal with. And that's pretty much it. There are some more advanced stuff. So for example, every different unit can call different support action. For example, here I can call an A10 gun run somewhere on the table, or I can use the tactical jammer to block the enemy leader for calling reinforcement for 2 turns. And those support, there are plenty of them. As you can see over here, there are, I don't remember the exact number, but there are plenty of them. And like I mentioned, the enemy faction also have some pretty nasty support I can call, like a sniper inside an helicopter. So that's pretty much it for this quick introduction to Haywire. If you want to see a full game, stay tuned, because I'm going to drop a video soon on the channel on that exact same board with the exact same team. The idea is that that quick introduction, I'm going to replay it completely on the channel. And yeah, let me know what you think of Haywire, the second edition, in the comments down below. Don't hesitate to subscribe, give a like to the video, and I will see you soon for the next one. Bye everyone.